Heavyweight contender Eric Molina has called out David Price and David Haye. He's angling for a fight with either one of them later on this year. Now I'm going to quote Eric Molina directly here. He was talking to Sky Sports. Molina said, David Caldwell has come out publicly and said he is interested in a fight with me and Price for sometime in November on the Joshua card. I think that fight makes for a great, exciting slugfest. These are the types of fights the division needs. I'm tired of some of these contenders out there calling out Joshua, Fury and Wilder. If you aren't a mandatory, earn your ticket. I'm not calling anybody's name out, sorry. He goes on to say, however, if the world thinks I am not ready for another world title challenge, then I am willing to fight anybody to earn my ticket and prove myself. David Price needs to leave these guys' names out of his mouth and earn his ticket. I'm not going to lie, the fight is a hell of a risk for both parties, but these are the risks involved in the game. I have a huge amount of respect for Price and it's nothing personal. To fight in front of the great boxing fans of the UK has always been a dream of mine. I know the UK fans can appreciate the type of fight that I would bring to their land. He also goes on to say, if Price isn't serious, bring me Haye. Haye needs to step up also. The heavyweight division in the USA is currently stagnant. I am passport ready to face the best around the world. So those are the words of Eric Molina. And I think I have to comment here on what Eddie Hearn and many other people have been saying. The dynamics of boxing really are changing, particularly heavyweight boxing. It used to be a case where if you wanted to fight for the world heavyweight title, you had to go to the United States. That's just how it was. It was like that for years. For the majority of my life, heavyweight boxing was dominated by America. Then, during the Klitschko era, it shifted. And if you wanted to fight for the heavyweight title, you had to go to Germany. Now it's shifted again. And if you want to fight for the heavyweight title increasingly now, you have to go to the UK. And not only the heavyweight title, because the UK has got so many current world champions and boxing is so strong in the UK right now. People in the US, I think a lot of them, casual boxing fans particularly, I don't think they really realize how strong boxing is in the UK. It's much stronger in the UK than it is in the US at the moment. And I'm not talking about the quality of fighters necessarily. I'm talking about the interest from the fans. Boxing in the UK is just absolutely buzzing. Now, I may have commented on this in a previous video, or maybe I didn't, but there was somebody who left a comment, a lady, I believe, who left a comment on one of my previous videos when I mentioned how much stronger boxing is in the UK in terms of popularity than it is in the United States. And this individual said, well, it's because in the UK you don't have as many options as people have in the US. You know, the inference being that because supposedly the UK don't have that many options in terms of sports to watch, everybody's gravitating towards a couple of sports, and therefore boxing by default ends up having a big audience, whereas in the United States they've got a plethora of all types of different sports, and so therefore the viewing audience is spread across a wide range of sports. Well, that's just not true, because in the United States, if it was simply a case of having lots to choose from, right, lots of choice, then you would expect that the viewing audience would be spread fairly evenly across all the different sports. But that's not what you see in the US. In the US, you get like 35 million people watching the Super Bowl. Then you get 25 million or 30 million watching the NBA finals. But with boxing, the highest they've ever had for many, many years was 6 million watching Errol Spence fight. And you look at Keith Thurman against Sean Porter, I think that did about 4 million or something like that. And that's a world title fight. Deontay Wilder's fights are doing like 3 million. You compare that to the size of the population, 300 million. You compare that to the numbers that NFL and NBA are getting, and the numbers are not evenly distributed. So this has got nothing to do with having choice. It's got to do with the American public not wanting to watch boxing. It's as simple as that. It's got nothing to do with choice. And in the UK, there's plenty of choice. This individual, who I believe has been to the UK many times, mentioned several areas in the UK, in London, inner city areas, which are populated by a lot of black people and a lot of Asian people in those areas. Okay. Now, there's no question that when it comes to ethnicity, there are certain sports which are far more popular within certain ethnic groups. For example, cricket, in this day and age, at least in Britain, is not a particularly popular sport with black people, especially not younger black people. It's primarily a sport which is watched and played by Asian people, people from Pakistan, India, etc., Bangladesh. Those people and white English people are the people who tend to play cricket. Black people don't tend to play it that much or watch it. And the same goes for motorsports, okay? Formula One. You don't see that many black people watching it or getting involved in it. I know you've got Lewis Hamilton, who's a Formula One driver, but, you know, apart from him, count the number of Formula One drivers who are not white, and the audience reflects that. So somebody who just goes and stays in all these ethnic areas in inner city London and judges what the people that they're around are watching and thinks, okay, this is what the whole of Britain watches, that's a very, very misleading, you know, situation that you're in. That's a very unwise thing to do, because Britain is demographically, I believe it's about 85% white. Yeah, and if you're judging the inner city like London, London is like 60% non-white. So the demographics are very different in London to the rest of Britain. So you can't judge what you see people doing and watching in London and think that's going to be the same for the rest of Britain. It's just not. Britain is nothing like London. Is not representative of the rest of the country at all. It's very different outside of London, outside of London, particularly in the north of Britain. So yeah, it maybe sounds like I'm digressing a bit here, but I'm just emphasizing the fact that you know, there are many, many different sports that are very popular in Britain. Motor racing is very popular. Spectator sport. Millions of people watch Formula One in Britain. Millions of people watch rugby. Millions of people watch cricket. Millions of people watch boxing. Millions of people watch football. And I'm not talking about gridiron here. I'm talking about football. So there are all types of different sports that are watched in the UK that are very popular, that all do good numbers on television. There's plenty of choice out there. It just so happens that boxing and obviously boxing in its current form with the Queensberry rules, etc., started in Britain. So it's always been close to the hearts of the British people, this particular sport. And also I think the pay-per-view model really killed boxing in the United States, and also the fact that there's not as much success in terms of American fighters in the US as there used to be. You know, you go back to the 70s, boxing was just huge in the United States. It was massive. Even during the Tyson era, boxing was a hell of a lot bigger in the United States than it is now. And you go through the 90s and all that type of stuff. Pay-per-view took a lot of fans away from the sport of boxing, definitely, and also the lack of success of American fighters. So again, it's not a case of the audience having too much choice in America and that's why they're not watching boxing. No, because again, if that was the case, then you'd get, let's say, 20 million watching NFL, 20 million watching NBA, and then 20 million watching a heavyweight title fight. But you don't get that. It's massively lopsided, with loads of people watching these ball games and very few people watching boxing. Whereas in the UK, you get lots of people watching boxing, lots of people watching rugby, lots of people watching motorsport, lots of people watching cricket, lots of people, it's more evenly distributed. Anyway, Back onto the topic at hand. Because boxing is buzzing in the UK at many different weight levels, in many different weight divisions, these fighters from the United States who normally would have got title shots in their own country are saying, you know what, I'm going to go to the UK. Because these guys look at the crowds that get drawn in the UK. If they visit the UK, they see that the reception from the fans is just incredible compared to what they're used to. There are many fighters in America who can walk around in the United States and nobody even talks to them. But yet the first time they go to the UK, they're getting swarmed by fans. And they find it, incredible. So fighters are seeing this. They're seeing that the UK is a hotbed for boxing right now. I believe there's currently how many world champions in the UK? 13 or 14 world champions or something like that. Which is far more than there is in the United States at the moment. So yeah, this dynamic in terms of people, American fighters or fighters from all types of different countries going to the UK for a payday is becoming more and more apparent now. They see the UK as the place that they need to be to get paid. And clearly Eric Molina is one of those guys who is angling for a payday. He knocked out Adamek a few months ago and now he wants a big fight. He wants to get paid. He's not trying to sit on the sidelines and fight nondescript opposition. So we'll see where it goes. How do you think Eric Molina would fare against David Price or David Haye? Personally, I think he would lose to both. I know he gave Deontay Wilder trouble, but I think Wilder was nervous in that fight due to it being his first fight in front of his home fans. And styles make fights anyway. I think David Price would deal with Eric Molina. The big problem with Molina is I think he don't take a great punch. I don't think he's that difficult to hurt. And because of that, when he's up against a 6'8" David Price who does hit hard, I don't see Eric Molina getting to Price before Price gets to him. I think Price will get to him first. And as with David Haye, I think David Haye is way too fast, explosive, and I think he'd take Molina out as well. Maybe I'm underestimating Molina. Some people probably rate him higher than I do. I think Molina is somewhat tricky. I think he is somewhat wily and a bit, crafty in there. I think his boxing brain is better than maybe some people give him credit for. But, that chin of his, I don't rate. And this is heavyweight boxing. You're going to get clipped unless you have a really good defense. Or you're really big and you can stay out of the way, which Eric Molina isn't. You're going to get clipped at some point. And with Molina's type of chin, I don't fancy his chances against Haye or David Price. Maybe you disagree and that's cool. If you do, or if you agree, drop your comments in the comment section below and let me know how you feel about everything I talked about in this video. Alright? It's your boy Haye, I'm out.